Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of Hummingbot Live, the weekly live stream where we run trading bots, show people what's new in the next releases of Hummingbot, and do interviews with folks from our community. As mentioned last time, we're kind of changing the format a bit so that every other week we do either an interview with a community member or we showcase what's coming out in the next version of Hummingbot. So this time we're doing an interview with Gabrielle from Regal Block, a decentralized protocol that aims to make asset management universally accessible. First of all, before I bring on Gabrielle, I wanted to just quickly go over what's coming out in the next version of Hummingbot, which is 0.17. So we have a couple new things for this release. The first big one is the integration of a new connector. We are launching Bittrex International, which is one of the top exchanges in the world. They list a lot of different tokens, and we think that it's an opportunity for users to do market making as well as arbitraging the differences between Bittrex and other exchanges. The other feature we're launching is we've improved the way that Hummingbot calculates performance. So previously, the method we used was to essentially look at the change in your inventory balances and then use that change to figure out how much money you made. But we found that as people were running multiple bots, as they're kind of moving money, in and out of their exchange accounts, that calculation was incorrect sometimes when you had those external forces. So what we did was we're calculating performance based on the trades performed by Hummingbot itself. So we're keeping track of lists of trades, and since you know how much you're making, if you have a list of trades, we're using that instead to power the performance calculations. And then we also fixed a bunch of smaller bugs with Huobi and the pure market making strategy. So look for that in 0.17, which is coming out on Monday. So with that, without further ado, I'm really excited to bring on Gabrielle from Regal Block. So let's talk to him and let's learn how he's using Hummingbot in the context of his company.
Hi. Fine, by the way.
Hi, Gabrielle. I think you are live right now. There's a bit of a delay between this and the YouTube. So let's just start the conversation, and we'll monitor the YouTube. Pretty sure it should be. Yep, looks like it's going correctly.
All right, brilliant.
Okay, so maybe as an intro, can you tell the audience about who you are and how you got into crypto?
Yeah, so my name is Gabriele Rigo, and I got in crypto because of Bitcoin. Actually, I got in around 2016, 15, I don't even remember. It seems it's ages now. And basically, I got because of Bitcoin, the price, and then there was this huge promise of Ethereum, smart contracts, programmable money. So I started following. I started being active on Ethereum with actually getting my hands dirty with smart contracts early in 2016. So from the very early days on. And basically what initially was the idea of creating funds, investment funds or actually an investment fund on Ethereum so that I could create a hedge fund, actually became a broader concept of creating a protocol for decentralized asset management. So basically, RigoBlock has a quite a long history on Ethereum right now. It's being live. It's an abstracted protocol that basically built for creating applications and that users can use to basically create token pools. And with token pools, they can manage multiple parties, multiple different token holders. They can pool ETH together and do various things according to the applications. So
got it. So are these pools are these like DAOs or are they like funds managed by a single person?
No, definitely DAOs. So basically, each of these pool is a smart contract
Mm.
deployed by the protocol, and it's a standalone. So itself is a DAO. It's controlled by uh, an address, but this address can be either a single person, or can be an entity, or can be a decentralized organization. So basically, the design is that it's controlled, the token pools, every single token pool is operated by its own creator, owner, call it the way you want. But this owner then can be anything. So
Okay.
basically, you can implement, it's kind of a modular design where you can implement things on top. And I mean, we're focused on the token pool and how they operate, how you interact with different applications like decentralized exchanges.
Hmm.
So not really on the governance model of the
Okay.
single DAO, because that is basically already sorted by some other protocols. So
Yep.
basically, you can use the different protocols as bricks and put them together, so you can have a fully decentralized DAO running a token pool.
Okay, got it. And then are the tokens that these pools are the own? Are they owned by the smart contract, or are they like can they be I guess like, for instance I guess would they like basically do they have to be Ethereum tokens, or can they be
Yeah.
like non-Ethereum?
Yeah, so initially they were only held by the token pool,
Mhm.
but then we basically faced some challenges.
Right.
Some was about adoption,
Mhm.
and some was about smart contract risk. So basically, on one hand, the adoption was limited by the requirement of that to be fully integrated with decentralized exchanges or hybrid decentralized exchanges, which basically have this lack of currently lack of liquidity,
Right.
high transaction costs, and some kind of limitations. For example, hybrid exchanges are great because they solve some of the limitations and the
Hmm.
gaming opportunities that traders have on fully decentralized exchanges. But still, there's no comparison when you talk about volumes with centralized exchanges. So, on one hand, this was a huge hurdle.
Hmm.
On the other hand, basically, the traders themselves didn't necessarily want to trust the smart contract. I mean, of
Hmm.
course, when you trust a smart contract, you don't have to trust an entity,
Hmm.
but there's a risk component in the smart contract.
Right.
So basically, we abstracted that and we introduced that. We recently published an article about that, something we call self-custody, and
Hmm.
basically it allows the pool operators to not trust the smart contract, to not having to trust the smart contract,
Hmm.
other than for the actual phase of subscriptions and redemptions, and then they
Right.
can basically move the ETH out of the or tokens out of the
Right.
token pool arbitrarily.
Yeah. So I asked because we actually did something similar when we first started as a company. We created like an Ethereum based hedge fund, and so we also kind of face a challenge of like how do you get the value of assets that are like not Ethereum based. And so what we did was we actually used like an oracle to like pull the value of like of our portfolio that was sitting on like Coinbase or Gemini, and then pull that into the smart contract via the Oracle, and then the smart contract handled the kind of like the ability for people to go in and out for subscriptions and redemptions. But
Yeah.
anyways, so I think there's I would say I think to me I think the biggest one of the things about asset management is a great place to apply smart contracts because it's such an inefficient area. I used to work in finance. I think you also work in finance, right? Did you?
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Yeah,
I,
and
I worked as a fund manager
oh, okay.
in a hedge fund before, and I mean, started my career as a treasurer,
Yeah.
and then basically was managing investment funds, like
Yeah.
regulated investment funds, global macro strategies, and yeah. So basically, yeah, the kind of limitations that just stated about the way that it's structured are enormous, and they
Yeah.
basically add on costs, which basically weigh on the performance of the fund. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I think what we found was like, I think it was like the hard part. I think to me was it was like, asset management is such an efficient area, but because it's like it's so conservative, like even like things like cloud computing are technologies that a lot of asset management firms aren't using today because it's like they're run by like like really traditional finance types, and I think the challenge is I feel like it's like getting them to like embrace technologies that are designed to like reduce trust, like smart contracts, and where it's like you're trying to eliminate these intermediaries. And I think some of the feedback we got was these like fund managers were like, or especially the investors in these funds, like the pension funds and endowments, they were like, we want these third party intermediaries. We want these people to trust that we rely on, and we don't want to rely on a smart contract. I was like, I was wondering, is this something that you guys have come across, or is that like a kind of, it was
yeah,
more like the attitude?
yeah. I mean, that's why. I mean, being a trader myself,
Hmm.
um, as my background,
Yeah.
uh, I wanted to create a system that I would first be willing to use.
Right.
So basically, um, it's you never know, right? In Solidity, is still early days and
Yeah.
stuff. So I mean, you can never be too sure. So I mean, you can put some safeguards somewhere, and
Hmm.
also you have instances where you don't want to have. I mean, it's also if you think about risk diversification is the rule number one of investments,
Hmm.
and here we're not talking about divers. Here we're talking about counterparty risk diversification. Normally, you don't have your money at one bank. Normally, you don't have at one single bank. I mean,
Right.
most people do, but if you're serious about that, you want to be diversified in terms of like your positions and your counterparties.
Hmm.
So basically, trusting one single smart contract is not necessarily. I mean, it's great, but some people might not. The majority of people might not be actually.
Mm.
I mean, like it's also a mental block that many people have, and you cannot expect them to just jump. So you
Yeah.
have to show them that it's better. And so basically, what we've done, we've abstracted that, and
Hmm.
we've said, if you don't want to trust the single smart contract, you don't have to. I mean, for example, for small transfers, you just can transfer freely. Tokens you can transfer freely for now, but if you want to transfer bigger amounts, you have like progressive with a cap
Hmm.
amounts of tokens that you have to hold. So basically, we're using the token as
Yeah.
a way to making sure that the interests of the pool operators are aligned with the interests of the different. I mean, the different stakeholders on
Okay.
the
Got it.
network. So
Okay. So, and just to, so how many kind of like pools do you have, in operation right now, and like how many kind of like, what is there like, is it live already, and how do people kind of get started with it?
yeah, I mean, so it's live.
Hmm.
There's a front end you can use at beta.rigoblock.com. So you get the link from the website.
Okay.
Um, there's a few dozens, like maybe 30, 40 of these token pools.
Hmm.
There's already some thousands of dollars already in
Okay.
the system, so not huge amounts, but I mean we're just at the beginning.
Hmm.
And basically, creating a token pool costs 69 cents of a
Mm.
dollar. So basically, if you want to experiment, if you want to see, okay, let's put traditional finance in comparison to a decentralized protocol, to a
Hmm.
decentralized system. I mean, think about the time savings, cost savings. If you want to test it out, you just go there, pay 69 cents. It's pretty acceptable. I say, I
Yeah.
believe, since a transaction on Ethereum might cost 5 to 10 cents
Okay.
minimum.
And
And then, yeah.
and then I think you touched on this earlier, but like I just want to clarify, what is like, why would people want to create these token pools?
Oh yeah, to manage. For example, say you're a quant trader on Hummingbot, right? You might want to hold the. I mean, you might want to have a better way to hold the cryptos somehow. Sometimes you have multiple. You might have clients if you're a market maker, if you're a trader. You have investors, so you have to manually manage them. And so this system basically helps you organize all the holders with their different holdings, automate the subscriptions and redemptions process, and also, if you don't want to trust the system, you just use self-custody. For small amounts, you're not required to hold tokens. So basically, you can move the funds out pretty freely. It's a permissive protocol in those regards, and you can get the incentives rewards. So basically, you can still use your own quant tools. You can use Hummingbot for trading. You just basically do the subscriptions through the protocol, but then you basically move the funds out. You trade on Hummingbot, and eventually we might have kind of direct Hummingbot to protocol into RigoBlock protocol integration, but I think right now people might be more confident in just not having to change anything in the way that they trade, not even one parameter in the initialization of the Hummingbots. So basically, you can trade, you can basically publish your track record, so you have a provable track record, which you basically have ways to prove. And then based on how much of the price is proved, then you get rewarded. So there's also
So I see. So it's kind of like if you're like a quant trader and you're thinking about potentially doing a hedge fund someday, then this is a kind of a way for you to start building a track record. And then when you're ready to bring on other investors, they can use the smart contract. You can basically subscribe and redeem more easily through the system.
You see, when you want to start up, the concept was starting up a hedge fund initially. Now it's still intact, even though you can do more things, like you can do custody services and stuff. So it's a broader concept with applications, different applications. So if you don't agree with how we've designed an application, you can fork, plug back in, and you have your own application, which still can benefit from the incentives.
Yeah. I think that modular design makes a lot of sense because, as you know, like a lot of funds have different pieces, and sounds like you have a system that allows people to compose these different modules together to build.
If you think about a trader, normally the most common thing that a trader needs to be scouted is the track record.
Right.
So you have these smaller traders that either work solo and don't have a provable track record, or they work for a hedge fund and their track record is segregated through NDAs and stuff, so they cannot even technically, they cannot prove that they have that track record.
Right.
And then you have the bigger funds that already have the track record and the assets, and so you have this separation. So there's a whole gap in between of traders that have the skills, that don't have the necessary assets to scale and to create a kind of regulated hedge fund, maybe. So there's this phase where they can use RigoBlock either to create the track record, and then when they have when they've created the reputation with real money, then they can actually move on to a more legacy solution, or they can keep using it because RigoBlock then becomes the standard. A track record takes 2 or 3 years to build, and you need to have a history to get investors on top. You could get shorter times, especially in crypto, because there's not so many people with long track records. But still, you need 1 or 2 years.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. And just kind of, I think we have about 10 minutes left. How did you kind of hear about Hummingbot, and how are you using Hummingbot?
So basically, I think I heard Hummingbot for the first time because it received a grant from the 0x team, which we're very close to, and basically was intrigued by the concept and the idea that there's many different bots around, but Hummingbot is like seems to be like the one place where you can put all the strategies together and operate on different exchanges. So you don't have to have one software for or one application for every single exchange.
Mhm.
You can use Hummingbot and comfortably set it up to trade on different exchanges. So it's really good. It's really good for market making on DEXs. I've tested it. Works great. And basically, I'm also I'm kind of proud that I've been able to contribute to the Hummingbot community by
Mhm.
creating additional scripts to the Hummingbot code, and it was really easy. So
Oh wow.
the
Okay.
the feedback, the response was great because the documentation for connecting Hummingbots to a local node running Docker containers was,
Hmm.
was not that. There was not much documentation about it, so I had
Yeah.
to spend a few hours to understand how to actually run it. I
Hmm.
managed to actually do it, so I said, okay, why don't I just propose? So I basically forked the code and
Mm.
created the scripts that allow to do that, and basically also updated the documentation. And then I pushed on GitHub. It
Mm.
was first accepted whether it was viable for a review.
Yep.
Then you have a system like a continuous integration system that checked that my commit didn't break anything, and
Right.
it went on to the coding production 1 or 2 weeks later. So it was really great, and I'm happy. I hope that some other people find it useful.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you very much for your contribution. That's exactly kind of why we made it open source, because we feel like, it's like running algo trading and market making is so complex, and there's just so many like edge cases to deal with, and we think that an open source approach allows everyone to get involved and everyone to like benefit from like the mutual work that everyone's doing. So yeah, thank you very much. And I think that this is exactly the kind of like thing we want to encourage. Like giving this like algo trading power to anyone in the world. Cool. So maybe and you mentioned when you do Hummingbot, are you using it just for yourself as a as an individual trader, or are you using it in the context of Regal Block?
So, well, it depends what you mean. Whether the RigoBlock ecosystem is like everything that is built around the protocol,
Hmm.
and the protocol is for traders. So now I'm experimenting, like I'm piloting on some things
Hmm.
individually, but of course this is for the use of the broader community.
Right.
So
Right. I see.
it's like normally you pilot and then you ship.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I think that this actually could be interesting to see if we can do something even deeper. We're actually going to launch something pretty soon that I think will allow more people to basically get involved with like either market making or arbitrage, and earn and really earn some additional rewards from it. So what we're and I think that because like if you just do market making, you're kind of like just just making money, just trying to make money, just do market making. It's definitely possible, but what we found is the way that like the real market makers are making money is that it's a combination of like profit based trading and getting rebates from either an exchange or project, for their kind of like market making, because they're kind of providing a service when they're adding liquidity. And I think what we found is by adding like that component in, it makes market making like much easier. It's much easier to make money by market making if you are like getting paid by like some liquidity, some buyer of liquidity, basically. And
Yeah.
and so I think that and so that's and we're really excited to kind of like start working with more project exchanges on that, because we think that it'll make market making a lot safer and easier for individuals. And so in this context, I think that yeah, I mean I can definitely see kind of a situation where certain individuals don't want to spend all the time to like configure their bots and to like set it up, so they'd rather kind of like give some capital to other users in the community who want to do work and who want to earn some incentive from doing that, which is basically what a fund is. It's a collection of individuals that are or giving their capital to someone, who's spending the time to basically try to figure out the best ways to make money with that capital.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think overall, we have a few minutes left, but I think this is actually really exciting because to me, even though Hummingbot's pretty new, I think frankly all of our projects are pretty new in the space. The fact that we're kind of like where we're really testing the assumptions made by kind of like people in finance and trying to change how it works for the better, I think is really exciting. And I would say I don't really have any other questions, but is there anything else that you want to kind of like tell the community, whether it's about Regal Block or Hummingbot, like what kind of is there anything else that you want to kind of like tell people?
Well, I mean, well, yes. One thing, it's might seem a little bit off topic, but it's well, it's related to where Hummingbot started and to DEXs.
Mhm.
So I see that I mean we all see that DEXs don't have that much
Yep.
liquidity, but there's no I personally do not see that big of limitation in
Mhm.
trading on decentralized exchanges versus centralized exchanges.
Mhm.
Because apart from the congestion times or days
Mhm.
where then the gas costs might go much higher,
Mhm.
uh, especially with the 0x model, when you send transaction, you cancel transaction, and you don't have to pay the fee for that, but you only pay
Right.
for when the transaction is executed. So
Yep.
if you're a market maker, you might not even be paying the fee
Right.
actually, because of the spreads and because some stable coins are listed or also.
Mhm.
I think that it's pretty natural for market makers, unless of course they only work as a service provider, but for traders that are trading,
Mhm.
Hummingbot works perfectly on the. I mean, the experience with DEXs has been smooth,
Yeah.
and they don't have liquidity. Market depth is limited. I mean, they don't have that much liquidity. Market
Mhm.
depth limited,
Mhm.
but there's opportunities because there's with volatility because of the low liquidity. There's volatility of arbitraging with centralized exchanges.
Right.
So I expect that more strategies will be built, like with community incentives on
Mhm.
Hummingbot.
Yep.
But I mean, I think that there are quite some opportunities there.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Actually, I think one reason we started with DEXs is because we think that, I mean, right now, like if you look at kind of like the types of trades that are happening in DEXs, arbitrage and kind of like arbitrage-like trades probably account for like a large majority of the trades in the DEX space, and I think obviously that's not going to sustain the market entirely in the future, but I mean that is one reason why people are trading DEXs today. And I think the way that we kind of think about DEXs is like both decentralized exchanges and central exchanges have like there's it's almost like they appeal to different types of users. So the if you're just a retail trader and you're just kind of like trying to to basically almost like speculate on a value of something, the central exchange is probably where they're going to go. But a lot of like the smart contract based trading, like margin trading on DYDX, for example, or other kind of like other or like a set protocol, and like we're creating like decentralized funds. The back end is actually served by 0x and the DEXs. So it's like the DEX is almost like a back end for different decentralized applications in the world. So to me, I think the real like when we actually have more decentralized applications with a lot more use, that's when decentralized exchanges will also really take off. It's like that's why kind of right now the most active trading pairs are always involving DAI, right? But like ETH DAI, WETH DAI, because like DAI as a like the DAI as a DApp, like people are actually using the protocol to mint DAI and to close out the CDPs and so forth, and so that's creating organic you know taker demand, which then drives volume on DEXs. But I think to me, it's like it's not so much about like DEX versus centralized. It's really like how do we catalyze the types of decentralized applications that will engender a need for DEX trading. So yeah, and I think so. To me, I think I think the rise. I think when Maker does MCD, so multi-collateral DAI on November 18th. I'm really excited about that because I think that should actually drive a lot more, activity into different tokens other than Ethereum used to like create CDPs. And I think that would actually, I think that should actually increase taker demand for all types of Ethereum tokens. So cool. Anyway, I'm really glad we had this conversation. I can always just like keep on talking about stuff in the decentralized finance space because it's like my passion. But we try to keep these like relatively short, half an hour, so that people can get on with their days. So I really appreciate all the time and effort you've spent on Hummingbot, especially with contributing to the code base and also jumping on this call to tell people about what you do and how you're using Hummingbot. So maybe one final thought. What's one interesting project other than Regal Block that you've seen recently that you think people should be paying more attention to?
In decentralized, in DeFi?
Yeah, it could be anything. I always I always try to like allow people to like kind of like I feel like there's so many projects going on, and it's like there's almost like information overload. And so
yeah, I mean, I'm probably biased, but I mean, I like the 0x project a lot. So I mean,
right.
it's biased because but there's so much interoperability between. I mean, like all these synergies between different protocols and projects, and so I'm more focused on what is around and I find useful. And I mean, I'm really excited about 3.0 and
Right.
0x mesh. So when they get shipped, they should be also. I mean, it's there. You already have like decentralized exchanges, relayers, so-called relayers that have already some liquidity.
Yep.
And so, I mean, I really like it. The team, the way that they work, the integrity of like their whole processes of management and decision making.
Yeah,
really fun.
That's a great call out. I agree. We love working with them as well. We're actually starting to look at Mesh and integrating with Mesh right now. So hopefully, I think after I think they're announced something in a couple of weeks during San Francisco Blockchain Week. We're really excited about what they're doing also.
And also probably an overclock relayer. I think Bamboo Relay is doing a great job. So I think they're like very active and efficient. Their tools work perfectly. So I mean, I see that they're great. I mean, but all the relayers are doing great job. But I think that eventually we'll see something out of
But Bamboo Relay, they built the first external Hummingbot connector. And they've been maintaining it, and that's something we want to encourage as well. Cool. Well, thank you very much for your time, Gabriel. And
thank you, Michael. If the community likes it and has some questions, I'm happy to pop up another time. So I enjoyed this call.
Okay.
Happy to do it again.
Likewise. All right. Thank you very much for your time. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, everyone. Okay. Well, that was a great conversation we had with Gabriel. And as mentioned, we're going to come back next week, Thursday, to go over the new features in 0.17. So with that, I will bid everyone adieu and have a great week.